Well, friends, a happy Friday morning again to you. Richard here on a nice and cool May morning here in Georgia. It's kind of wild to feel how cool it actually has gotten the last couple days, which is actually not bad. We had a very warm weekend, some very warm days prior to, but actually having some cool air has actually been pretty nice. Um, so anyway, I pray everyone is doing well, that you all have had a wonderful week, and it's a pleasure and honor just to be back here again, just to be able to share some more thoughts with you this week for this week's Fire Pit Conversation. Um, Again, it's just a wonderful thing to be out here, to be able to listen, to be able to sit and hear the presence of God and the sounds of His creation around me, and I love having being able to have this time and opportunity, and then inviting you all to be a part of it. Um, so anyway, again, I pray everyone has had a good week. It's been a wild, another wild season, of course, and this week has been had its ups and downs in my life, but it's been good. I've got to spend the last couple days, actually a few days in the last couple weeks, just getting to do some really good writing, and it's been wonderful to be kind of back in uh, doing something that I really love and desire doing, and really inviting God into that process again has been an awesome and wonderful thing. And um, I haven't done a whole lot of writing in the last many months. But to really open that back up and step back into this project, I think I alluded to a little bit in last week's video, has been great. Um, and just look forward to seeing the way where God takes it and how it kind of evolves, as I begin to write. And just it's the idea, again, friends, that um, researchers show that we as adults, humans, make 35,000 decisions a day, right? Um, there are so many choices, some that we may not even recognize. We recognize the big choices, we recognize the big things that we have to decide on each day, and then there's the little mundane decisions of, do I go right or left, or do I pick up a fork or a spoon, or um, whatever it may be, a cup or a glass, and um, so and then the wonderful choice that sometimes that we have as a family, especially between Amber and I, is what are we going to eat? If we happen to be going out or wanting to go out and grab something to eat, so where do you want to go? That's a choice that takes a lot of weighing in conversation, because nobody can ever decide what we're going to eat. Um, so anyway, I won't delve into that. I'm just laughing at myself as I think about that this morning a little bit, and thinking about choices. But again, and where God has really taken me is taking me back to my first choice to really follow Him, my first decision to say yes to Jesus 5 years ago, and where that has continued to take me, and the continued choices and daily choices that have come with this life with Jesus, and even where He took me over the last several days is really looking at the warfare that is set against our choices. Even just some circumstances that I dealt with a few days ago, of where I really had some time to myself and was really processing that. There was all kinds of things set against us, and the enemy is ready to pounce on those moments, and dealing with that. So it's been a joy just to really step into that, and really be able to begin to bring that out, and I pray that as it comes out, that God is a part of that, and that it blesses those that are able to read it as I begin to share it out with all of you, and which will hopefully be soon. So, but we'll see. I'll leave that all in His hands. This isn't a project I wanted to rush by any means, um, but I really have enjoyed stepping into it and really putting my heart behind something that I've um, uh, that has really been awakened in me. So anyway, and that just makes me think of the way God uses us. right? And I was reading a devotional this morning on the YouVersion app, and it's made by the people who, or the publishers who made the series The Chosen, right? So it's written in context of that series um, and all of that, and it's been a good read. We're reading as a family, so each one of us are each going through it and processing it, and again, that's a series that we've all had just loved. Um, a little Easter egg gift that was given for my daughter, especially this week, is that loves doing sidewalk drawing, sidewalk art, and did some um, using the fish and the imagery from the Chosen series. She did that was part of the art she did this week, and it was shared on social media. And the Chosen series got to share that out, um, and which was a very cool thing for her. But anyway, I don't want to delve too much into that. It's easy to go on a rabbit trail when I start talking about something. But um, one of the things that really stuck out to me, especially this morning, was the way God chooses to use us, right? Um, and I've said several times over the last weeks, just in conversations with my family and so forth, is that as I watch that series, The Chosen, um, there's something about the character of Matthew that has really resonated with me. Um, and it's not that the character is shown as um, uh, from his, being on the spectrum or whatever it may be. There was something about Matthew that has just really resonated with me. It's been hard to articulate that. But this morning, what I was reading really popped in me, really helping to put context into that. And that Matthew was a man who had um, a lot of skills. He had a lot of things that by the world standard were very useful, um, and so becoming a tax collector, very good with numbers, very good with keeping track of things. So he had the tablet that he kept all his notes on, and details as to who was doing what, who owed when, who was given um, a grace period to catch up on their taxes, and so forth. And so, very good, worldly, useful things. Just as in something which I resonate. Well, I'm not a tax guy or anything like that, but I've just acquired a certain amount of skills that have been useful over the course of my previous career. And uh, so, but then Jesus steps on the scene, right? And Jesus completely ambushes Matthew in a whole different way. If you watch the series, first Matthew just sees the miracle at Zebedee's house, where he heals the paralytic that has been lowered down through the ceiling, um, and he's just totally questioning his entire belief system of what is going on, what is he happening. I've had this way of seeing the world, and it's completely being rocked. Um, and again, that's kind of where I was 5+ years ago. Was just in the season of, I knew where I wanted to head. I knew where God was leading me, and yet at the same time, um, my entire belief system. Well, I backtrack. I'm sorry. I said I knew where God was leading me. I knew where I wanted to go in life. I knew what was going to prove to be successful by world standards for my life and providing for my family, and being able to have a what pictured as a good career and so forth. So it was very interesting to kind of process that. But then when God met me and really ambushed me, really changed my worldview, and really called me into something that I never knew, or I never would see myself jumping into. From working with people, counseling with people, to beginning to minister to men, and leading men's weekends, and Lord only knows where it's going to go next. But and then stepping back into writing again, and the way He began to just dump, the Holy Spirit just began to dump things into my heart and into my mind that I just couldn't process any other way but writing it down. But especially just seeing all that again, just like Matthew, just completely um, his whole belief system taken off kilter, his understanding of things is taken off kilter. And from my perspective, I was calling into something that I knew was unlike anything I had ever imagined doing in my life. I just never felt myself going that way. And one of the things that was in the devotional this morning was the words that Jesus doesn't want ability. He simply requires availability. And how true that is. You know, he doesn't care about what we think we can do, what skills we think we have, how we think we can serve. Jesus wants us to be available so that we can be used the way he desires to use us, right? And it's wild to see how that has continued to happen and come about in my life. You see it in the narrative that is of Matthew, when Jesus calls him out and calls him into the larger story with him. And even in the show, you see Peter, when Jesus is calling Peter and saying, telling him, follow me. And Peter is like, no. What are you doing? Do you even know who this guy is? And Jesus just looks straight at Matthew. Doesn't look at Peter, looks straight at Matthew and says, yes. And that's the important thing, is that God sees us. Jesus sees us, right? He sees you for who you are. He doesn't see you by the way the world sees you, right? It doesn't matter what anybody else says, you know, and that's such a powerful thing for any of us to really think about and process, because even if we feel like we don't fit into the narrative of what people think we should fit into, maybe we felt like we've been outcast in some way, or either by our own actions or just by the way we feel and the way we operate. It could be in our woundings and some of the own agreements that we've made in our own lives. That doesn't matter, because Jesus sees each one of us, and being able to be seen the way he sees us is what matters above everything, right? And it's just an amazing thing, and being willing to being called up and step into something so amazing and so powerful as the larger story with Jesus. I can tell you first, from my own experience, has been amazing. It's been a scary experience. It's been a wild experience. It's been a wonderful experience. All these things packaged into all these emotions packaged into one. But it's already been a daily dose of a lifetime of holy moments, like I talked about in last week's video, of just being willing to be as close to Jesus as possible, not knowing in this moment or the next whether I'm going to be crying or whether I'm going to be laughing or whatever it may be. And friends, that's what this narrow road is about, right? And what Jesus talks about, of what and how fraught with danger it's going to be, but at the same time, it's where life is, and where he wants to lead us back into life, of calling us into something outside of anything we've ever imagined or seen. And it's just a wonderful thing to kind of process. And it takes me back to even what Jesus wrote or said at the Sermon on the Mount, which Matthew captured in Matthew 7, in verses 13 and 14, where he says, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. So again, it's knowing and that there is a narrow road to be taken. There is always a road to life that Jesus is trying to lead us on, each one of us on. He wants us all to follow down that road with him. But we have to be willing to take that road, to be willing to step on that path, to be able to learn to step into the path of becoming who he's wanting us to become, right? And who he's seen, who sees each one of us as his sons and as his daughters. Um, and that should be the longing of each one of us. But again, he calls it the narrow road, and he does specifically say that there are a few that find it, although that's not the way he's wanting each of us to go. So it's just amazing to see that and really process that, and now to really step into it and begin to live it out in my own narrative has been something that's been amazing and wonderful in so many different ways. So friends, what I want to leave you with is this, and just really thinking about the desires God has put in your heart, and processing the way God is using you. Do you feel like you're being used for your skills, your worldly skills and abilities that you have, or are you really making yourself available to be used the way Jesus wants to use you? I think that's really an important part of this journey. The desires, the deepest desires of our heart. I was reading more about desire this week. That word's been on my heart a good bit. Is there's desires placed in each one of us, and what John Eldredge calls and what I was reading this week, actually, what Augustine described as the whole life of the Christian is a holy longing. So there's always this desire deep within us for more, and that's the desire for more of God. So choosing how we pursue more of God in our life, in our dailies, and how that begins to come about, and whether we're pursuing desires that are deep within us that truly are after his kingdom, or whether we're after our own agenda or our own personal desires that have nothing to do with kingdom things, that are led by motives that are not of the faith, that are not of belief, that are not that lead us away and lead us toward doing things that help us operate on our own, right? Of making the world work on our own apart from God, which is not the way the world was designed to be, not the way God intended it for it to become, but it's a way we have chosen many times, and will choose all through the course of our life to try to do. Always this trying to make life work on our own terms. So anyway, it's always a path to becoming, and becoming who we are, and becoming who we're meant to be in the course of our lives. Becoming for men, becoming kings of our domains, small k, kings and women, queens of your domains, again, small q, and just being able to step into that of becoming who we're meant to be, and having our hearts continue to be restored over the course of our lives. And I think that's where God is leading us, and the way he begins to see us, and the way he shows us that he sees us and knows us, and just as, again, going back to the way he saw Matthew, and the way I feel that resonates, the way Jesus has seen me and called me out in my life is such an important thing. And when you realize that, and you realize that identity piece, identity and beloved, being identified and seen by God is the starting point. When you get that down of how much you're seen, how much you're loved by God, then it awakens so much more to you, that God begins to go after, and the training really begins to happen in your life. So as the path to becoming really begins to take root. So anyway, I could go on in 100 different directions this week, but I'll leave that for now, friends. And I'm just so thankful again to be able to be here this week and be able to share some more thoughts with you. So I look forward to seeing you back here next Friday for another Fire Pit Conversation. Until then, friends, I pray you have a great week, great weekend. Take care, and God bless.